Hello viewers! Did you know that on average, car owners spend anywhere between $500 and $2,000 a year on maintenance? While this is absolutely needed to keep your vehicle in good shape and reliable, it doesn't mean all that money is well spent. Why? Well, sometimes a mechanic might be scamming you, using tricks to rip you off on car repairs. Let me explain what I'm on about. First of all, I must point out that most workshops and mechanics run decent, honest operations and won't try to scam you in any way. These are places that will take care of your car and your wallet as if it's their own, performing only needed repairs in a financially efficient manner. And if lucky enough to have such a mechanic, your car will be in good shape and, equally important, you won't spend unnecessary amounts of money to keep it that way. Unfortunately, however, not all mechanics are like that. Some will try to trick you and rack up unnecessary or even imaginary expenses to your repair bills. This can be anything from selling you stuff or services that your car doesn't need, to charging you for the work that hasn't been done or parts that weren't even replaced. The way they do this is relatively simple. The dishonest mechanic assumes you don't know much about cars and uses this as a soft point to convince you to pay for some extra work or the one that hasn't been done at all. But let me show you some examples here. One would be a simple oil change. The mechanic is advising you to do this every 3,000 miles, although the owner's manual specifies this should be done at 10,000 miles. But the mechanic will say that this is too long, that the car maker doesn't want the car to last, and that it's better to change the oil more frequently. Sure, the engine might benefit from slightly shorter oil change intervals, but there's no reason to do this so drastically. If the manufacturer specified 10,000 miles, you could do this at say 7,000, but putting new oil every 3,000 miles in such a car is absolutely not necessary. While on the subject, I must mention engine flushing, which is something a mechanic might tell you needs to be done on every oil change. This is a procedure before the new oil is poured to remove all the gunk from the engine's internals that might have accumulated there over time. Sometimes this is necessary, especially in neglected vehicles where maintenance wasn't done on time. But if you have a well-kept car and have done all the oil changes regularly, there is no need to do the engine flush every time you change an oil. This is because modern-day engine oils already have detergents inside them for this exact purpose. One more thing here is tune-ups. Sure, back in the day when more or less everything on the engine was mechanical, it was necessary to adjust the timing of distributors, carburetors and so on. But with modern cars, I'd say in the past 20-30 years, the engine's operation is controlled by the ECU and there's rarely anything to be adjusted here. In that case, the only tune-up needed is regular maintenance. Oil change, new filters, spark plugs and whatnot. So if you have a 10-year-old car and your mechanic says it needs a tune-up, ask him what he exactly means by that. Similarly, a mechanic might say the valves on your engine need to be adjusted every so often to keep it running smoothly. This is a process where a clearance between various moving parts inside the valve train is set to a certain predetermined value. But most cars today have hydraulic lifters, where this procedure is not only unnecessary, but cannot be done either. Next, I must mention the fuel injectors, for which a dishonest mechanic could claim they should be cleaned every 30,000 miles or so to remove dirt buildups inside them. But the fact is, if you're using high quality gasoline and your car is running fine, this is probably not needed. Moving along, we have the tires. You take your car to a shop to have the new tires fitted, and they call you back telling the wheel alignment should be done. Now, this is true if one or more tires are worn unevenly. For instance, one side has much less tread than the other, like here. But if that's not the case, they're probably trying to sell you a service you don't actually need. Or even worse, they won't align the wheels at all, because they are already bang on. My advice here is to occasionally check the tire condition and the treads. This way you'll spot if any of them is wearing out unevenly. Also, flat tires. These are excellent money makers for scamming workshops and tire places. Instead of repairing it, they'll try to convince you to buy a new one instead. Not only that, they might also argue replacing both tires on the axle, or even all four of them if it's a four-wheel drive vehicle. But the truth is, most tire punctures can be easily and safely fixed, especially if it's caused by a nail or something similar. Another common situation is leaving your car in a workshop for a service or repair, and after returning to pick it up, you're presented with a much higher bill than expected. For instance, they've noticed something's broken or more parts had to be replaced to fix the issue. Sure, this is often true. A good mechanic will spot if something's broken, even if it's still not causing any issues, and repairs can sometimes be more demanding than initially suspected. This is mostly down to how complex modern cars are. But a crooked mechanic might abuse this fact to sell you some work that isn't needed at all. One more example here would be something trivial like a loose gas cap, which usually triggers a check engine light. Instead of just tightening it up and maybe charging a diagnostic fee, a crooked mechanic might say some hoses need to be replaced and the computer recalibrated. They might even throw in a good old tune-up as a necessary step, just for a good measure. What I want to add in the end is the cabin air filter. These cheap parts should be replaced pretty much every time you do an oil change. But what some workshops do is charge the replacement while not doing the actual work. This is mostly because the filter is hard to reach in some cars and they just can't be bothered to hassle with it. Having gone through all these common situations, the question is, how to protect yourself from being scammed by a mechanic? Well, one thing that helps is knowing your car and the maintenance it needs. How often, what needs to be replaced and so on. This is something you'll easily find in the owner's manual or by going through internet pages specialized in providing such information. Also, unexpected high additional parts and labor costs. What you can do to prevent this from happening, or at least try, is insist on authorizing any extra work before it's done and also ask them to show you all the parts they've replaced. Although not bulletproof, this method might make a dishonest mechanic less likely to do unnecessary repairs or charge you for something that hasn't even been done. What also helps here is communication. Ask the mechanic to explain what's broken and why some seemingly separate parts need to be replaced as a part of the repair. The fact is, some mechanics, despite being excellent and honest at their job, might have trouble simplifying complex technical subjects to a person who has little or no knowledge about cars. And in such a situation, you might get the impression he's trying to scam you, while he really isn't. But don't be afraid to ask for additional explanations of the problem. If the mechanic has nothing to hide, he'll find a way to clarify this for you, regardless of how irritated he might be by your questions. To conclude, if you suspect your mechanic is scamming you, whether this is a simple oil change or some expensive repair, you should learn some basics about the subject, such as what it does and how it works. One way to do this is by checking other videos here or visiting our site, mechanicbase.com, where you'll find all sorts of automotive repair guides. Finally, if you do establish your mechanic is not honest with you, find another workshop. There might be a place just down the road that will do the job better and with fewer expenses. Don't let the scammers play their tricks on you. Bye!